Hi everyone, hello from London. This is an introduction to data extraction in Covidence. And whether you're watching this live or you're viewing the recording, welcome to you all. Here's an alternative title for today's session, Data Extraction, or the most difficult part of every review project. I could sit here today and tell you that data extraction is easy, but that's not true, and I don't think you'd believe me anyway. It's my assumption that lots of you joining today already have some experience with how challenging this process can be, no matter what tools or tech you decide to use. Well, the good news is that Covidence has been working in a really focused way on data extraction for some time now, and we've developed the resources and the tools that you will be able to use to help you get this right. So over the next hour, we're going to cover these basics and let you know where you can go to find out more. I'm Laura, I'm going to present today's session, and I'm joined by my colleagues Gida and Nancy. Okay, some housekeeping before we begin then. This session is being run in standard webinar mode. You are all muted, but we'd love to answer your questions. So please enter those at any time in the questions box, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. We are recording this webinar, so you will receive a link to it by email within the next 24 hours. And the slides that we're showing now will also be made available after the session. Just go to our knowledge base, probably from tomorrow actually, rather than later on today. Go to our knowledge base and search slides, and you'll find these there. Before we jump in, here's some information about Covidence. Covidence is web-based software that enables you to manage review projects and collaborate on tasks. It supports a certain part of the review process, from the import of references through title and abstract screening to data extraction and quality assessment. Covidence isn't a reference manager, it's not a database or a search engine. It doesn't perform meta-analysis. What it can do is streamline your review process. It helps teams to significantly reduce the amount of time spent on reviews, meaning that you can produce high quality evidence faster. We've got a full-time team based around the world continuously working on improving the product and providing technical support to you, our user community. And we support the world's largest review community with over 400,000 users. Okay, today's agenda. We're going to look at the basics of data extraction. We'll have a look at what that looks like in Covidence. Then we're going to give a summary demonstration of Covidence's 2 extraction tools. So we'll look at extraction 1 with the example of an intervention review, and then we'll look at extraction 2 using the example of a non-intervention review, and then we'll answer your questions. Okay. Just quickly before we do any of that, I've got a question for you. So that should be appearing on your screen around about now. Please tell us, have you ever used Covidence for data extraction before? I can see lots of you have already voted. Thanks very much. This is useful, gives us an indication of where you are on your data extraction journey. I'll just leave that there for a couple more seconds before I close it and share the results with you. Okay, I'm going to close the poll now. And here are the results. So this is interesting. Most of you haven't used it before. A quarter of you have. So thank you very much for sharing that information with us. Let's go back to the poll. Okay, as a follow-up to that, because we thought it'd be fun, we'd love to hear how you got on if you have used Covidence for data extraction before. So if you'd like to let us know via the questions box how you got on with that, we'd love to hear about it. Thanks. Okay. Let's make a start then. First of all, what is data extraction? Probably all wondering. Data extraction is the process of collecting and organizing data from the included studies in your review so that you can analyze that data, so that you can synthesize it, or so that you can use it to create a narrative summary. The best way to do that is to use a form that you design and that is based on the framework or the structure of your review. So we recommend developing this at an early stage in the review process. Many teams include a sample data extraction form as part of their protocol. The purpose of the form is to collect the information you need, and only the information that you need, in a standardized way that means that you don't need to keep going back to the source. So what does that look like in Covidence? Well, a lot will depend on the type of review that you're doing, the type of data that you're collecting, and the specific outcomes of interest. But the basic process can be organized into these 5 steps. First up, you'll need to decide on the data that you want to capture. As I said, that's usually done at the protocol stage. Secondly, you'll create an extraction template that is a structure for capturing the data. When that's published, the template produces a data extraction form for each included study. Third step is to actually collect the data in your form. You can test the form out on a small number of studies to begin with to make sure that it fits, that it's appropriate, that it's working, and then you can make any changes that you need to. You can do that as you go along, even once the extraction process has started. That's a very common scenario and one that Covidence has been designed to accommodate. Fourth step is a check of that data that you've extracted, and then finally you'll export it in a format that's suitable for the next steps of your project. So what does that actually look like? The process of creating the template and collecting data to the form is displayed on the slide that you can see now. So you will create an extraction template like the one you can see here. I've made a screenshot of a section of a data extraction template using Covidence's Extraction 1 tool. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see what it looks like to actually be extracting data against that outcome in the form. So that's what it looks like when you use an Extraction 1, more of this later. And then if you were using our Extraction 2 tool, it would work on exactly the same principle. Template and form look a little bit different, but it's the same idea. So you set up and publish a template, that's what you can see on the left. And then when that's done, you'll see this form on the right for each study that you want to extract your data for. So I already mentioned Covidence has 2 extraction tools. This slide is a sort of summary comparison of the 2 tools. So we'll go through that information now. Data extraction 1 is set up around the PICO structure. So that's where you have your participants, the intervention, the control, and the outcomes. So there is flexibility within that framework in extraction 1. There's lots of cool stuff that it can do, lots of features, but that's the essential structure. You can extract in dual reviewer mode. You can export to various different formats. So you've got CSV, Excel, and also a RevMan export in Extraction 1. Over on the other side for Extraction 2, this is a tool that we recommend for non-intervention reviews. It enables custom data collection in really any structure that you decide that you want to use. You can have dual and single extractor, and you can export to CSV. So that's a very quick head-to-head comparison. In deciding which tool that you're going to use, I'd recommend thinking about what you actually want to do with the data once you've exported it from Covidence. So what kind of output do you need for the analysis, the synthesis, the summary that you're trying to get to? Work out what output you need for that, and then try out Covidence's tools and decide on the best one for your purposes. And really work out whether it meets your needs. So I've mentioned a demo review. You can find the demo review by logging into Covidence, going to the Your Reviews page and scrolling to the bottom of that. When you get there, there's a demo review that you can click on and play around with the different features, compare them, test them out, and then decide how you're going to run your project. So if you want some help with setting up a demo review, again, go to our knowledge base, that's support.covidence.org, and you'll find instructions on how to do that. Okay, just finally, before we start the demo, lots of people we talk to tell us that they use Excel for data extraction. And look, we like Excel too, but we think Covidence is a better tool for data extraction for a few reasons that I'll explain now. First of all, it keeps everything in one platform. It keeps your extracted data with the relevant studies, with the screening decisions, so that you have that continuity and you have everything on one platform. It also offers convenience. So as far as the user interface is concerned, in Covidence, you can view the article that you're extracting from on the same screen as the extraction form, instead of having a kind of continuous toggle between the two. Thirdly, you can use Covidence to collaborate. So you can have several people working on extraction in the same review simultaneously, and you can keep track of each other's progress. You can also perform checks in Covidence. You can perform extraction blinded to your colleagues. So, and it will allow you, if you want to create a consensus set from the extraction of 2 different reviewers. And finally, you get control. You can tailor the format of the export to the needs of your project. Okay, that's it from me for now. I'm going to hand over to Gida, who's going to talk us through extraction 1. And to do that, I'll need to make you the presenter, Gida. So just give me a couple of seconds to do that. Okay, I think you're the presenter.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's a slide I'd like to show you. Would it be possible to go back to your slides, Laura, to make, yeah, my apologies. I think there's one slide that I'd like you to see. Can I make you the presenter again?
Sure. Yeah, switch back over, that's fine.
Yes, sorry, apologies.
Okay, there we go.
Great, thank you, Laura, thank you. Next slide, please. Yep, great. So the DE template, the data extraction template in extraction 1 has been designed for intervention reviews, which follows the PICO framework as mentioned earlier by Laura. So where you'll easily be able to create, pilot, and update your data extraction template. So for the purpose of this demo, we've built a DE template from a protocol assessing the effectiveness of vitamin C for preventing and treating the common cold. So the review will look at all participants, adults and children, in randomized controlled trials. Next is the intervention, which is usually the treatment you are investigating. So in my example, and in this review, we're looking at the effectiveness of the intake of vitamin C at least 1,000 milligrams daily. And if you decide to use one, is the treatment, the control or comparator is the treatment you want to compare with the intervention. So for example, I'm interested to look at the effectiveness of vitamin C daily versus placebo. And finally is the outcomes, where are the measures used to assess the effectiveness of the treatment. And it's particularly important to select outcomes that matter to the end users of the review. And in this example, our outcomes are the numbers of colds, which are the participants reporting on a cold in a study period, duration of cold, usually mean days of illness, and severity of illness reported by a severity score, and of the illness itself. So now I think you will, can you please make me the presenter again, Laura?
Yeah.
Sorry for that. Thank you.
That's okay. I think that should do it. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. So to use the data extraction template in extraction 1, you simply navigate. So I'm going to go back to the review summary page. So this is usually the very first page in Covidence, when you open a review in Covidence. So if you go to the extraction section here, you click on extraction, then this is where you'll find extraction 1. So usually by default, extraction 1 will be selected. But if you go to the settings of the review summary in the review summary page, you'll be able to switch between 1 and 2. But by default, usually extraction 1 that you are seeing at the moment is selected. So you can customize the template to fit your specific review needs. And the very first time you will enter a review in Covidence, or where you haven't done any extraction yet, you will see 2 blue buttons at the top right, and it will ask you to create a data extraction template and a quality assessment template. So if I click on that one, so this is where you actually create your data extraction template. And once you're happy with the fields you're going to add, then you can publish the template and then make it available for others to start extracting their data. So for this purpose, I will switch over to the demo review, to the extraction of my demo review, the vitamin C for treating the common cold, and take you through a data extraction template that was actually previously published for the purpose of this demo today. So you can see once I publish a data extraction template here, it will turn white. So I click on that. It's already published, but we're going to go through it today briefly. So once you go into the actual extraction, data extraction template in extraction 1, you'll notice that it actually has 5 sections. So the first one is the identification section, and which is designed to capture the general information about studies. So if you need, let's say, more information and to know more about the identification, you can click on the question mark icon, which will take you to the knowledge base article to know more about that. So I'll give you a quick overview of that. So what you'll notice here that there are 3 subheadings with default fields, and these cannot be deleted or modified. So these fields allow you to record, let's say, the basic information about your included studies like sponsorship, source, country, settings, and let's say anything about the environment or where the actual study was taking place. And any additional data under this subheading can be customized and captured to meet your requirements, and that wasn't really captured in these default fields. Next is the methods section of the template, and it's designed to capture details about the design, aims, and conduct of the study. Again, here you'll have a link at the question mark icon to know more about what can be included in the methods section. And as you can see, there are also default fields that cannot be deleted and removed. And these fields will allow you to record, let's say, key details about the design of the included study, such as the study design. And however, a second subheading where you can actually add and capture custom fields, again, to add fields that suit the specifics of your review and that are not captured in the methods details here. So this is when the PICO framework will start in data extraction templates. So the first one is the population section here, where it's designed to capture details about the people or participants included in your study. So let's say like eligibility criteria, differences between the groups, and these are all as well set up and by default, but you can also add custom fields under the characteristics of your participants to capture the baseline characteristics of your participants. And these could be, let's say, something like similar to mean age, percentage of male, BMI, and so on. So these are just examples for you that what could be characteristics of participants that you are interested to capture. And as you can see, the icons here can have it has a bin icon, trash bin icon that you can choose to delete if necessary. And you also have a field for additional data that you can add more data on what belongs here. It could be something about the number of withdrawals or the percentage of dropouts or loss of follow-up. So anything that you think that can also be captured under the population section. Next is my interventions. So this is the text section, which is also designed to capture the details about the interventions received in each group. In my case, it was the vitamin C and placebo. And also I will have this here subheading, which I can actually customize and add as many custom fields relevant to the characteristics of my interventions. So in this case, I've also added a few things related to dosage, the frequency of my treatment, the route of administration, any permitted co-interventions, and number of allocated to each group, or the number of participants allocated to each group. So these are just examples in this demo. And finally is the outcomes, this is the section and the last stage of the PICO framework. And here it allows you to record numerical data of the outcomes of interest and about how each outcome as well is defined and measured. So here you can provide the name of your outcome, so similar to what I did. So the first outcome is number of colds in my case. So if I click here, you'll be able then to choose the type and whether the outcome is continuous or dichotomous. So that was already picked as dichotomous. And then you also can add time points of interest to the review, such as baseline, end of treatment, 12 weeks, etc. So this is where you can add more as well. Outcomes, I added the duration of hold, it's a continuous outcome, and the reason you cannot now change it is already that I extracted data against it. But if you want to change that, you can do if you haven't started any extraction. And similarly for the, let's say, severity of illness, I've chose that to be a continuous outcome and the relevant time points underneath. So this is also the default measures where you can actually also choose from how the actual, let's say, your continuous measure, how you'd like it to be reported, and similar for the dichotomous, but this can be modified once you actually as well extracting your data in the form. I'll show you this just in a bit. So now, once you've set up your actual template to your satisfaction, you can click on publishing the template here at the top right. So I'll not do that just now, and I'll go back. So we'll switch now to the form. So what we just discussed now is how to set up your data extraction template in extraction 1. Once you've published that, you will see a start icon similar to this one, let's say. Okay, and in this case, then you will, the moment you click on the start, then the first person who clicks on the start button or icon will be assigned as the first reviewer. So how really does the actual form look like? So I will click on that one just as an example. So this is how the actual form looks for the data extractor. There will be on the left-hand side of your screen the PDF, where in this case, and I would like to note that we've now improved as well the PDF viewing experience in our extraction tools. So you will be able to zoom, let's say, in and out and search for terms within your PDF as well, or for keywords or phrases. And also there have been improvements as well to copy paste information into your study. So the very first section will be as well on the right-hand side of your data extraction form. Here is the summary. It will give you a summary of everything you've extracted and added as fields. Next is the identification that we just discussed earlier, and something to let's say, collect study information on, let's say, study details, author details. And I'm just going to give you an example on here. Let's say if I would like to copy and paste one thing here, so I would do that. And while I'm doing that, it's going to be saved, auto-saved. So whatever you extract will be also auto-saved for you. Okay. And let's say I'm interested next to collect information on my method. So this is where there will be a nice drop-down menu to select the relevant, let's say, study design for your study and add any additional methods, details that you've actually added under additional data and customized. Here's the information to collect on your population. And the very first time you want to actually collect information on the baseline characteristics of your participants, the table will not be ready unless you actually start checking the boxes for your interventions. So I would advise that you, at that level, on your study level, you can use the check boxes to select which interventions were included in this study that you are extracting, and then next come back to the baseline characteristics to collect the data of your participants against the both interventions. And this is all will be in a field in terms of a table. And lastly is our outcomes section. So where you can actually here, let's say, when you first as well select the outcome from the checkboxes, it could be that you'll see all the type of outcomes that you wanted from your review protocol, but not necessarily that they were actually, let's say, documented in your PDF or the study that you've just included. It could be just 2 outcomes that are included in this study. So I just select these, and then you'll see that you'll be able to also select the time points from here or remove as necessary as well. So the results data section is an additional section where you can actually add a numerical data of your outcomes, and you change it as you go. So in this case, I'm happy to, let's say, edit the way my data was reported. So it is reported usually as an ARM level or raw data. But if I'd like to actually change it to, let's say, an effect estimate, as I just similarly here, if I need it back as a ARM level data, you can change it to ARM and then save it. Sorry, I need to select the outcome measure it was reported as. So I'm happy with this one. So you click on save. So it's back to row arm level data. But let's say if you would like to add an effect estimate in this case, rather than arm level data, I'll do this for this one. So for the duration of cold, I'm happy to, let's say, it was reported as an effect estimate. So I click on the arm versus reference arm. I choose how you'd like it to be reported. I'm happy with the mean difference, confidence interval, and p-value. And then against which group, I would happy with the placebo, and I'll just click on save, and this will change for me. So this is just an example that you can edit how the measures of an outcome was actually reported, because I just said earlier that the default measures can be selected on the template, but when you extract your data at the study level, that can be edited here using the edit icon. As well as adding as well, if you don't find the ones that you would like reported as your outcome measure, you can create also custom measures. Let's say if the study data have been reported differently from any of the standard option choices, then you can create a custom measure as well for that, in case if it was at arm level data or arm or row data, as I mean, or an effect estimate as well. So you can still add a custom measure for that. And one thing I just need to know before we wrap up is how actually how the data is collected, or how once you export your data from extraction one, how it would really look like. So at that point is just one thing to note. Let's say that all the interventions and will appear in rows, as well as the studies. And let's say time points will be, and other custom fields will be actually reported in separate columns. And this is if you choose and you select, let's say, to export in a CSV. I'll show you this just in a second. So let's say I'm here back to the review summary page and I choose export. Then I will be able then to, let's say, choose the CSV option to export my data, or an Excel, which also will export as in the whole data, but also you'll have a one study per sheet for each included study. So this is something additional. And you'll be able to export to RevMan as well 5, as well as to exporting to RevMan Web. So, and this is the case and what you are able to actually export from data extraction 1. And I'll show you this in as well, how this would look like, let's say, if you export in CSV and open it in Excel. This is exactly what I mentioned earlier, that you will have different studies exported with their interventions in rows, and time codes and other custom fields that you've actually created and was there and by default will look like that in separate columns. So going back to you, Laura, there's a slide I'd like also to show the audience too. So I will make you the presenter now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Gita.
So this is definitely was a very quick overview of how this would really look like. However, if you are keen on a detailed walkthrough of the Extraction 1 tool, which was recently updated, I would definitely recommend that you sign up for this webinar, and which is happening next week. Is our step-by-step webinar, and it will go. My colleague will go through the tool very much in details, and will give you an hour time to really answer all your questions related to Extraction 1. So in this case, I think Nancy, my colleague, now is sharing the actual sign-up link for this, registration link for this webinar. And if you cannot attend it, you'll be able then to view the recording the next day. So no problem at all. But definitely, if you have more questions and you'd like a detailed walkthrough, I would recommend definitely to register for this webinar happening next 30th of April. Back to you, Laura. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Gita. So that was Extraction 1, very briefly. I'll talk now about Extraction 2. As I already mentioned, this can be used for any review project, any framework or structure. And if you're mainly dealing in qualitative data, this is the tool that we recommend that you use. So the review that I'm going to demo today is this one. It's called Impact of Social Media Use on Body Image in University Students. So this review is really interested in an exposure rather than an intervention. and it's going to collect mostly qualitative data. You can see that we've got this structure of the participants, the exposure, there's no comparator in this study, and our outcomes. So we've divided that up in the slide that you can see in front of you now. So that's what we're going to look at. But before we look at this review question specifically, I want to show you how to set up a template and publish it to a form in Extraction 2. So I'm going to switch to the platform and show you that now. Okay, this is a demo review that I've got set up just for the purposes of this walkthrough today. I've got 8 studies to extract, and if I click here, you'll see here they are. Now, I can't do anything in this review, start any extraction, until I've actually published a template, similar to what Guido was showing us earlier. So to do that, my first job is to click up here in top right and go to the data extraction template, and then I get this. So I'll walk you through what this screen is showing. We've got 3 columns, as you can see. The central column is where I will edit the form. So this is really showing up the default extraction template that Covidence provides you with when you create any review. So this is here already. There's nothing, you can customize this, you can set it up, and you can move things around however you like. And you can also click at the top, you see I'm hovering over now, I want to start from scratch. If I click on that, that's going to wipe absolutely everything. So it really depends on whether you want to sort of start with this, move things around, delete, add to it as needed, or whether you want to just start completely from scratch. That's up to you. You'll see that there's various different fields, elements to this form, so headings, text fields. It's a bit like a Google form, I suppose, if you've had any experience using those. So you can add, if you just click on the plus icon, as you can see here at the moment. If you want to delete anything, you would go over to this pane or the column on the left to delete, and you can move things around by drag and drop, like I'm doing now. So over here, you can see in the item settings that I can add any instructions that I want to for the people who are actually going to be using the form. So I'm just doing that now. And you might have noticed that as I was doing that, the changes that I made immediately appear over here in the right-hand column, which is the preview of the form. So that shows exactly what it's going to look like once it's published. So that is the template. And when I'm ready to publish that and I'm happy with how it's all looking, I will go up to the top right and click publish. Incidentally, if I wasn't quite ready and I wanted to come back to it later, I would just be able to save it as a draft. So let's go ahead now and say that we're ready with that template. You'll see that now, when I go back to my list of studies, I can begin extraction. So let's try that now, and I'll say begin. And what you'll see here that you're probably already getting familiar with is this view of the study itself in the pane on the left-hand side and the extraction form on the right. So like I said, this is a form that I've just, a template that I've published without really doing any kind of adaptation or customization for the purposes of this review. So that wouldn't really be of much use to us, honestly. I really just did that quickly to show you how it works. But here's one we made earlier. I'm going to switch now to the review that I introduced a few minutes ago, impact of social media use on body image in university students. And what I want to do now is take you through the customized template so you can see exactly what we did in order to set it up for the data that we want to collect on this review. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the template to show you how that looks. Okay, let's take a look over on the right-hand side at the preview pane. You'll see the general information. That's kind of the same, honestly. This is fairly generic. Most reviews will need to capture some basic general information about the study and its methods. So there's nothing really much to see there in terms of what we've done to customize. But if I keep going, you can see that there's the population information. And then further down, we have set that up to a particular exposure, the social media use that we're interested in, and we've customized that with some checklists. If I keep scrolling down, you'll see we have entered the outcomes that we're interested in for this particular review, which is body image, And then there's some checklists and some free text fields that we've entered there in order to be able to capture the qualitative data that we're interested in. And then carrying on further down still, we've got the analysis and the results. What we've done here is set this up so that we can collect data and group it by theme, and we can collect quotes from the participants in the studies if we want to. So those are a couple of custom tables that we've set up here because we've decided that that's how we want to collect the information that we need for this review. So that's just a quick look at how that customization is possible in data extraction 2. Really just in the way of our short demonstration. So you'll see this template is already published. Let's go and have a look at it in action on a study. If I take this very first one as an example, number 90, you can see that extraction is already underway, but I can click on continue to show you that this is the view now when this study already has some data extracted against it in these fields that I'm kind of highlighting now. So this is a form that's had some work done on it. You can see here just example quotes, not real ones. Yeah, so that's what the form will look like as you start to complete it. Now, if you want to go away and come back to it later, you can click save. And when you're ready, you can click here to say send for consensus. Now, a word on that. I'm in dual reviewer mode at the moment. Send for consensus will start the process of producing a consensus set of data by comparing reviewer 1 and reviewer 2's extracted data. If you wanted to use single reviewer mode for your project in extraction 2, you can do that. You change it over in the settings. And if you're in single review mode, there's no consensus stage to complete, obviously, because you've only got one person's extraction. So instead, this button would just simply show complete, and you then get a chance to check that data before you exported it. So it's send for consensus as I'm in dual mode. And I want to show you that process now. So I'm just going to hit the back button to take us back to our review, our extraction page. Quick word on the tabs across the top here. You'll see I've got a total of 4 studies at the moment in my extraction section. But if I move over to the right, you'll see that's broken down into the studies where extraction hasn't started. I've got 1 in progress, and I've got 1 where consensus is required. So that's the one I want to show you now really quickly. So I'm going to click on that one. So what we can see for this study is that I've completed extraction, Nancy has completed extraction, so now the consensus process can begin, and I'll show you what that looks like by clicking here. Now I've got my study on the left again, but this pane on the right looks slightly different. So what I've got now as the consensus reviewer is reviewer 1's data, reviewer 2's data. I can quickly compare these and resolve any conflict. So there'll be a conflict wherever the data doesn't match exactly. So you can see I've got 107 to do, and it's as easy as clicking on the one that you want to auto-fill that final decision pane. If you decide that you don't want the review of either reviewer, you can just type over there, like I'm doing now, for example, and then to say complete. So that is the consensus very quickly. And if you're wondering what all this looks like when you extract it, I can show you that very quickly as well. I'm going to leave this page and switch to a spreadsheet view. So once this information is consensus has been completed and that data is extracted, you can open it in a spreadsheet and you'll get something like this example that you can see now. So here, I just want to draw your attention to the fact that we've got 1 study per row in this sheet. And you can see for the reviewer name, each one says consensus because this is a set of data where that stage has been finalized and completed. So this is some exported consensus data from extraction 2. And similarly to the one that Guido showed you a few minutes ago, all the column headings that you can see I've highlighted at the moment are fields in the data extraction form. So that's what comes out when you export the data from Covidence. Okay, back to my slides. That concludes the summary view of Extraction 2. But if you'd like to learn more and you think this could be useful for you and your review team, then do join us on the 13th of June when we'll be taking a step-by-step tour of Extraction 2. You can register for that via our knowledge base, and I think the registration link will also be displayed for you in the chat box if you'd like to sign up right now. All right. Okay, I'm going to hand back to you then, Gita, to wrap us up.
Thank you, Laura. So based on what we have discussed today, our top really 5 tips is follow a framework and then plan ahead, pilot the template as much as you'd like. And then once you're ready, extract the right amount of data, but also be aware that while you're actually in the actual process of extraction, you might still need to change the template. And this is how Covidence supports this process. You can always update the template at any time during the extraction process. Then finally, communicate regularly and keep a log of reporting for reporting purposes, and export your data to use that for your analyses. And to know more about top tips really on data extraction, and really if you're keen on data extraction for intervention review specifically, I'd always recommend then to download the copy of this guide that our team have actually produced not very long time ago. And I would definitely advise that it would have links onto the Cochrane handbook, more information on intervention reviews and practical tips as well to follow when extracting data for intervention reviews. And I think Nancy will also link that, provide that link in the chat for you, but also we'll be providing the slides along with the recording, so you'll be also able to download the link from the slides the next day. And also now we're at the time where we, before we wrap up, we would like to see if there's further questions, and we'd like to answer any of the questions. So Nancy, back to you.
Yes, we have a question here about Cochrane Risk of Bias 2, if the user can use it in Covidence.
Yes, so at the moment, Risk of Bias 2 is not available, and what is available is the Cochrane Risk of Bias 1, but then an option to definitely customize as well and add Risk of Bias 2 if needed. But I would personally recommend at the moment to either go to the Cochrane, the Risk of Bias 2 website, and there's an Excel sheet specifically created to extract data on Risk of Bias 2, but also let's say if you're interested to have your data exported in RevMan, RevMan also provides the opportunity to actually also do the Risk of Bias 2 in RevMan. So in the case, then I would advise you to do that outside of Covidence, and we will definitely, once it's in Covidence, we will surely advise our users when it will be available. Thank you.
Thank you, Gita. We have a question about exporting in the data extraction 2 tool. Is it CSV?
Yes. So the extraction, the export for extraction 2 is only the CSV option at the moment, unlike the extraction 1 where we have exporting to RevMan as well. So as just Laura indicated, like just minutes ago, that we can only export into a CSV in extraction 2.
Okay. Thank you. We have a question about the consensus. The user here is saying even the similar data is labeled as decision required. Why is that?
I think the reason for that in the demo might be something just as small as there's an extra space or something like that. So it does look identical, but it isn't identical. And as I say, I think one reason for that might be that there's a extra space somewhere. So it's quite sensitive. It has to be exactly the same. Otherwise, it will query. Yeah. And
this answers another question. Do the reviewers need to match their answers word by word? So you already answered that this one as well, Laura.
Okay, yeah, yes, that's correct. It needs to match exactly, yeah.
Okay. We have a question about the nodes that are added in the extraction template if they are exported.
Is it in one or two for in general?
It's not clarified.
Yeah. So at the moment, if you add there's section for nodes in extraction one, and at the moment they're not yet extracted, but this is something our product team, engineering team are working on. As for also the section to put comments in extraction two, unfortunately, it's not as well exported. So at the moment, it's you need to add a field that say nodes that actually then would export the data into an Excel.
Okay, thank you, Gida. We have a question about which tool is more suited for mixed method studies.
I would definitely advise Extraction 2. The reason is because Extraction 2 supports all types of reviews, and I would definitely, and I know that mixed methods have both quantitative and qualitative as well. So in this case, it will be able to support both numerical data, but also qualitative data. Unlike Extraction 1 at the moment, it only supports the, let's say, more of the analyses of numerical data.
Yeah, there's some very cool features in Extraction 1 if you are dealing in numerical data. There's lots and lots of sort of sophistication at the level of being able to capture the study data exactly as it's reported, and being able to you know, that's helpful when you're sort of grouping numerical data for analysis later on, for example. But yeah, if it's a mixed methods, the best option is probably Extraction 2. It's worth playing around to find out for yourself and try it out.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions about the possibility of using the two tools in the same review.
So what you can, it's not possible to sort of use both in parallel. You can switch between Extraction 1 and Extraction 2 in the settings part of your review. That's very easy to do. And when you switch over from one to the other, if you have already extracted some data, let's say in Extraction 1, and you've decided actually, no, you want to use Extraction 2, you can switch over very easily. But what you won't be able to do is use that data that you've already extracted. It will stay in the tool that it originated in, and it won't move. So they don't kind of talk to each other, if you like. But so you have to be in one or the other. You can't move the data across between the two sections.
Okay, thank you, Laura. We had a couple of questions as well about the auto extraction or using AI in extraction. Laura, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. So in terms of what's coming next from Covidence, we are working at the moment, we've got some discovery work underway on automating data extraction. You know, we're all dreaming of the day when this is done for us by the computer. So yes, the key here is to implement something, and as is very important for Covidence, implement something that is reliable and trustworthy in that regard. So as we're looking at it at the moment, and so the feature that we'd like to introduce is we're sort of calling extraction suggestions, whereby you would have you'd have Covidence essentially suggesting the data that you ought to put in the fields of your extraction form, but giving you, the user, the ability to either accept or reject that suggested data, so that you, the user, are in full control of the process. So that's what we hope to produce next. There's been quite a lot of nice launches from Covidence in the last year or so. Machine learning and AI features for screening. So we're very much looking to introduce same value in terms of time save and those benefits to the data extraction. So watch this space.
Thank you, Laura. Gida, I think you'll be able to handle this question. How would you create a template to extract data from studies which do not have the same outcome time points?
Yes, so in this case, well, I can go to data extraction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let me go
Yeah.
back to, sorry, we're sitting around one computer here now. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So if, let's say we go back to extraction 1 DE.
I might have archived it actually.
Oh. Sorry. Yeah, sorry for that. It's okay. So I'm just gonna give an example here.
There's no running studies in there.
Oh, okay, no problem.
So you're looking for the vitamin C extraction
yeah,
one.
DE1.
If you go to my archived,
Yeah.
I was tidying this up earlier. Okay, so keep going, keep going. D1 vitamin C for the common cold, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah, we found it. Thank you. Yeah, my apologies. So in this case, let's say we have different time points. So I will just use this in this case and just assign it to, because Laura, I'll go to the team settings first, just to remove myself as the first reviewer only. So this is something you will learn in next week.
Next session.
Yes, on the next session. So now, yeah, just anyone. So I'll go back and assign myself as Laura. So just to show you, as it's only restricted that first reviewer can do everything on the form. So this is something as well you will learn next week with my colleague. So now Laura, to be able to extract the data, I had to reassign her as the first reviewer. So now going back to the study form for the study, in this case, let's say I have my outcomes reported as number of calls, duration, and severity, for example, for this study. Then what I will do then, and I know that each has different time points. That was the question, right, Nancy?
Yeah, it was multiple time points.
Yeah. So let's say I have number of calls.
Multiple outcomes. Yeah.
Oh. Multiple outcomes. Yes, I have multiple outcomes and different time points.
Yeah.
Different for each.
Oh, yeah. And different time points. So it might be that the number of calls was reported at baseline and end of the study, but not at 12 weeks. So that's absolutely fine. You can just delete that. So now I have different outcomes, but also with different time points if that's what's reported in the study. Is this that question?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do, you can see here where it says add reported. If the outcome name was slightly different than the one that's given here, which is obviously driven from the template, you can add a reported name as well.
Yeah, different name for the outcome, but also let's say if the baseline in this case is reported at 7 days, that was the baseline in the study, then you can also play with the name here.
Yep.
So these are very much particular and detailed answers that my colleague next week will go through. So that's why I advised that everyone signs up for next week's webinar as well. Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Dida. We have some questions that are review specific, so I would advise the users who ask these questions to send us an email to support@covidence.org, so we'll be able to check this review in specific and give you a more relevant answer.
Great.
Back to you, Laura.
Thank you, Nancy. One question that we had that came up a few times as part of the registration process for this webinar was whether it's possible to produce or enter hierarchical questions in the data extraction template. That's not something that's currently there. So that applies equally to the data extraction template and to the quality assessment. We haven't looked at the quality assessment today, but as of right now, it's not possible to have a sort of hierarchical set of questions in those forms. So I'll just add that before we finish. So let me go back to the slides that we wanted to just show you before we finish today. Thanks everybody for coming along, and I'll let you wrap up, Guido.
Thank you. So yeah, just really as an advice to try extraction, I would definitely advise to sign up for trial review, use our demo review as well that is available for you on the review or on your main dashboard. but also finally check our knowledge base. And we have a QR code here that will, if you actually, if you can just, once you are able to scan that, I will advise you to visit our knowledge base for a lot of articles and video tutorials, and that will give you a glimpse on how to use not only our data extraction tools, but how to use Covidence for screening and importing your references to assessing as well the quality of your evidence as well. So this is now the QR code ready for you. So if you have any questions, you can always contact support team, myself, Laura, and Nancy, and the rest of the team, which are based around the globe at support@covidence.org, and we aim to get to you within the 24 hours. And then also visit our knowledge base anytime for any questions and video tutorials. And then, yes, also register for next week's webinar and the one in June. I totally advise you to do that. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. And we're really, wherever you are, just hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.